Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John's reports for the 27th of July. Well, we continued the juggernaut, but again, some pretty decent swings intraday as we dipped below. We now have white NBI over magenta, but that's negated with our DOC green over cyan. So probably see some weakness, but most likely just to the ABM. Any follow through would have to see major switch as far as cyan starting to rise or shorts getting active, and we've actually moved to positive shakeout. Now that becomes significant because, again, starting a positive run, so you're at higher highs versus the previous histogram. So once that histogram begins to dip a little bit, then like back over here in May, you would potentially get that little bit of swoon. From an NQ standpoint, NASDAQ much stronger, but you can already see a little bit of short activity with the steel crossing below again. Likewise situation, though the ABM on this is a bit stronger and really close from a white magenta configuration here on the NBI. So maybe we're getting a little more parallel readings for the market from that standpoint, but still pretty consistent. Gold still not doing anything. It's an amazing situation when you see the amount of money supply that's been thrown in, and all that's been going on, and to still have gold at these depressed levels. Interesting. Some might call that manipulation. Euro again going to remain weak. They're talking about printing relative to the U.S. Similar amount of money. But it's not having its what you would call that major inflationary pressure, simply because, with the continued lockdowns and that, you have depressed economic growth, which, if allowed to ramp up, would be a real quick catalyst to inflation. So, Bitcoin jumping off of all sorts of things that can make up news about this and that. But what I find most interesting is how interesting it is right to the critical levels that we had pre-established before from our buy setups here. 34K was a previous one, and 39 was resistance. As soon as it popped above that, moved right back below it, filling back in some of the positive extremes. Of course, the positive extremes take you all the way back to exactly the same 34 level. From an ES standpoint, from a deal campaign 2, of course, we had the pre-market sell, produced the NBI buys, brought us back to the highs. Had a little bit of soft period in there where the white NBI was riding above, and magenta overtook that and brought us to the highs, kind of fought back and forth. But towards the end of the day, this was a much tougher one, I was pointing out, because you have the turnover, you had NBI white popping while magenta and that was still well over. The only difference was you really didn't have that very strong shakeout relative to the previous high, and you were making higher highs. So once it did start to create that DOC spread, which literally happened at the crossover, and you also had the magenta moving below the 33 and below orange and yellow, all the things that you look for in that. So an early jump in would get you around just underneath the 76% Fibonacci line. Of course, that did lead to not a complete fillback. We have positive extremes that will take us all the way back to the 80 level. But as we came in here, an interesting one, this is something that I was working with in the new program. If I slide underneath here, you can kind of get a reference to it. So matching from it, doesn't take that first early NBI until you get over, and lift that up here, you can see it on the NBI reading here. Where magenta gets over that 20 is where it would initiate that potential buy. So on the close would be down at the low back near in between halfway between the 0 and 23% for the turnaround. Not a huge difference, just you don't have the pump up and then drawdown situations from the earlier setup. But all in all, pretty close to about the same situation, just gives you an opportunity to capture it, with less of a drawdown than you had from the original. But it still produces the same by configurations at the right times. And that's the most critical element of it. Of course, if I get some of those verified and completed, just been an ongoing back and forth with the language, because some things will assist, other things don't, and you just have to keep going back and one at a time, plugging it away. As always, though, I will send out any updates, but we're getting close to the end of the month here, so I'll be sending out renewal setup so that you'll be all set for start of August. Should be interesting. It's notoriously a weak month, so could be interesting. As always, though, I will update the Skype chat and keep you updated on any new developments as well as setups as I see them develop. Trade well, and we'll talk to you later.